Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We are joined with Tom here.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hi, how are you?
I'm tired.
Yeah, we all are.
It's a long
We are.
weekend, right?
Yeah.
And you brought for us Heavy Armor.
Yep.
Your company is Silverclutch Games.
Mm-hmm.
Out of Philadelphia. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So tell me a little bit about Silverclutch. What was the genesis of how did you guys form?
Sure.
What
As the story goes.
Okay.
So I don't want to call myself a game designer.
Mhm.
I found a way to mess around with like existing games and then decide I don't like this game. I'm just going to do something a little bit different.
Yep.
On my own for like a couple years.
Mhm.
I started out trying to make it like a not quite a 4X, more like a 2X, like kingdom building game that was
Okay.
like it's just a deck of cards, and that like ended up being terrible because it was the first game I ever made. But at that point I wasn't really worried about how good it was. I just wanted to make it. And then I started working on another game that was all about how can I take Dungeons and Dragons, but make it in a format that my friends who are absolutely not reading a 350-page rule book can play.
Correct. Yeah.
And while I was working on that, my friend, now partner, Chris Visco, was interested in he was interested in starting his own business, trying to find a way for him to make something that he kind of had agency over.
Right. It no longer worked for somebody else to build something that he could call his own.
Right. Yeah. Very much like he wanted ownership over something. And
Sure.
he's like a gaming partner of mine. Like we've been playing RPGs together for almost a decade. And he asked me, hey, I think there's legs to this idea that you've got.
Right.
Do you want to work together and maybe see if we can't pitch it and get it made?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, sure.
Sure.
I'm into it.
Yeah,
I would love
do
to
it.
see this thing made into an actual game.
Uh-huh.
And the college we graduated from together had this program called the Corso Center.
Okay.
And what their goal was to empower artists to basically start small businesses.
Okay.
So he was like, let's pitch it to them. Maybe there's in some, beautiful world, they'll decide that a game company is worth funding.
Right.
So we spent 6 months just studying the games industry, figuring out how big it is, what kind of products succeed in it, what we would need to do to get our feet off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
6 months later, a really, really awkward, bad pitch, and a few weeks of taking classes with them, they gave us enough money to get our first game made.
Very good. Awesome.
So we took the little bit of money that we got, spent it almost entirely on artwork,
Mm-hmm.
and a little bit of money on going to events. Play tested the game for about a year,
Okay.
and then released it on Kickstarter in 2016.
Right. And this game was what?
This was Beneath Nexus. It was our first product. The log line for it was an asymmetrical dungeon crawling card game.
Okay.
The premise of it was that it was an ancient city called Nexus that was super wealthy and powerful and had all these amazing artifacts and beautiful buildings that drew its power from this thing called the Ether Well.
Okay.
It was just this font of magic that was overflowing.
Yeah.
But the cautionary tale of abusing natural resources, it turned on the city and the whole thing came crashing down.
Right.
So in the game, you're heroes that have come to the city to try and explore it and reclaim the treasure and power that was lost within it. But it's now ruled by these evil, part creature, part lord, part demigods called the Blight Lords.
Okay.
And the Blight Lords were all powerful figures that lived in Nexus before it fell, and then the magic of the well corrupted them.
And
The remnants of it, yeah.
Right.
Got it. Excellent.
So the players will fight their way through the city, make their way to the Blight Lords, and if they're able to slay them, then they win the game.
Okay.
While the Blight Lord does everything they can to kill them as
Stop.
effectively as possible.
Yeah. Excellent. What lessons did you learn in the first game? Because that's the best. I mean, the best question for most designers is that question because there's a lot, obviously.
Yeah.
There's a lot of varying responses
Yes.
to this one.
So what's the best lesson I could think of in terms of design? So the biggest problem we had with it was coming up with a way to basically build out from like the core idea.
Right.
So we knew that the idea was that there was different heroes and they each had different abilities. Beyond that, we went through a million different ideas on like their abilities could be used with dice, maybe they're cards, maybe they've got like equipment. Whenever I talk to like students or whenever I like have like a little talk when I go back to school, the school I graduated from, I say the only element that survived version 1 to version, the final release was the players played different characters. This is the only element that survived from version 1.
Right. Because it's all about pivoting when you see it's not working, you have to. Sometimes it's a soft pivot where it's like let's tweak some numbers. Other times it's a hard pivot where it's like this whole system altogether is not working. Yeah, and that happened a lot for you.
Yeah, the best lesson I would say is don't ever be married to your design. Whatever idea you have, it's not precious. It's not the be all end all. Invite people to shred your ideas to tiny ribbons. Pick up the pieces and see what you can make that's even more beautiful than it was before.
Very true. Very true.
It starts one place, and who knows where you're going to end up with that.
Oh,
you
absolutely
have to be open to that. Yeah.
Well, Beneath Nexus started out as an entirely cooperative game, and like that was a big goal of ours. It had to be cooperative.
Yeah, right.
Which D&D would be. Yeah. So it makes sense. Yeah.
We found out the big lesson we learned there was, in a cooperative game, you really run into that alpha gamer problem.
Yeah.
One person just says, you do that, you do that, you do that.
Yeah.
We made the Blight Lord roll, and all of a sudden we have the perfect place to kind of push that alpha gamer.
Yeah.
So then everybody else can kind of breathe a little bit and play cooperatively.
And how they want to play, yeah.
Right. And the person who likes to be like the orchestrator has a nice role built perfectly for them.
Right. Exactly.
Really funny you mentioned that too, because I'm thinking in my mind as soon as you said the alpha gamer. Have you played Seventh Continent yet?
Ooh, no, I haven't.
So one of the, in a way, flaws of Seventh Continent is they're actually you're working cooperatively as a group to control all characters at all times.
Ooh.
And there is no turn order. There's no initiative. So people just raise their hand and say, "I want to go," and they can take 25 turns in a row if they want. There's no rule that says they cannot do that. So the reason being is because min-maxing collectively as a group, you're all sort of making that decision. And if you have an alpha gamer, it's very rare that they're gonna ever want to step back and be like, you take care of this, right? And that's one of the inherent flaws in the game. And even if you have those more shy type players or in a group, they'll never even they'll sit back and like not even like aggress or say, hey, I think I could do this. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I had a friend that was playing the game with me. We actually played it on Tabletop Sim early on, and they said, I hated it. And I said, well, what happened? He's like, well, you never let me take my turn. And I said, you never asked to take your turn. Every round I said, who would like to go? Oh, I don't know. Well, okay, I'll go. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what.
So I'll go again.
There's always that, like at every table, there's going to be at least some friction of communication. Not everybody communicates the same way.
Very true.
And a lot of like arguments are born out of people just not understanding what the other player next to you is trying to say.
Very true. Very true. So fast forward, Beneath Nexus comes out. Tell us a little about the success or whatever lukewarm response. What happened?
So leading up to the actual Kickstarter, we had a pretty good plan of how we're going to promote it, how we're going to get out to reviewers. We knew that because we were a first time designer, we were going to have a really big uphill battle. We were going to have to really prove ourselves. So the number one ethos that we kind of followed for the design of the game was that it needed to look awesome.
Right.
Both me and my partner
you did your research, man.
Thank you.
And it does look awesome. I love the art style.
Thank you very much.
Really do.
So we both have a background as artists. We come
Okay.
from an art school.
Okay.
So we knew so many artists that are amazing. And even more than knowing artists, we know how to work with artists.
Right. Which is huge.
Yeah,
huge.
the number of people that the number of game designers that I've
That's
talked to that are
very
like,
true.
I mean, that's just gonna do it for me. You want how much for it? Like,
yeah, it's like
Well,
people get surprised when it's like
Yeah.
they want like $200, and it's like,
Do you know what goes into that? Like really
Yeah.
goes
Right.
into that $200. Yeah.
right?
The
And-
torture that some of these guys put themselves through
Oh
just
yeah,
to make a piece.
Mhm.
It's not cut and dry. Like here we go. Boop, 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 boop. I mean, they're going. Nope. Okay.
it's
Yeah.
it's an act of creation,
Right.
Absolutely.
Anything that's creative, it hurts a little bit.
It
hurts
does.
a bit when you make that.
Yeah.
There's a
And
lot
then
of
when you have to
struggle.
release it to someone else.
When you
Yourself out there.
let that bird fly off, and you're like, oh no, hope nobody hurts it.
Exactly.
So the first thing we were like, before anyone even looks at it,
Mhm.
we need to make sure that it's worth looking at.
Right.
So we sunk almost all of the funds that we were able to raise into making sure we had really killer art.
Yep.
And then we needed to make sure that we were able to get at least a few people to give it a chance to review it.
Yep.
We put together a massive list. I think we had between 70 and 80 different reviewers.
Wow.
Yeah, we emailed all of them. We had like 50 prototypes made up. I think
Oh
we
my
ended
God.
up.
So yeah, there's a lot of prep there too.
Yeah, we mailed out at least 30 prototypes, and of those 30 prototypes that we mailed out to reviewers, I think we only got between 8 to 12 that actually reviewed it and released a review.
Doing all the legwork, everything right, and still
Yeah.
10.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
But we did the research. We knew that every step was going to
Yeah, and that
diminish a
was a
little bit,
possibility,
which
yeah.
is why we put that huge effort,
Right.
Right.
like big investment that just whittles its way down. But the reviews were all stellar.
That's great.
I was not ready for how good the reviews were going to
That's
be.
great.
I think it was Board Game. I think it was Board Game Authority that did a review that
Okay.
said, like they just had a really small little quote that it was just easy, accessible fun.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is everything
That's
that I could
perfect,
want in a quote. That's everything I want
Yeah.
out of the reception.
Mhm.
That's a perfect, like, throw it up on the Kickstarter.
Right.
there,
Um,
It's
Fits right in
literally
line.
perfect,
Yeah. So we get the review, like we got the artwork, we got the packaging,
Yeah.
we got all the reviews, we put it up on Kickstarter, and then I had the worst month of my life. It was awful. Chris had a much better attitude throughout the whole Kickstarter.
Right.
He checked his email once a day.
You're-
I had push notifications
Mhm.
immediately. I was waking up at 4 a.m, like my phone's going off, and I'm like, what Groupon? What? I don't care. just like every buzz, I'm like, somebody pulled out, someone's not backing it.
Right.
Oh no.
Right.
Terrible sleepless month later, we end up overfunding.
Very good.
We were shooting for 20K. We ended up raising 27.
Beautiful.
Oh, it's nice, yeah.
And then after that, we just, posted a message to all of our backers. We thanked everybody, and we let them know a month from now we're gonna get started delivering
No,
it.
exactly.
I'm gonna spend a month asleep.
It's a rest period. Well, did you guys do backer kit and stuff like that?
We did not.
Okay.
That was a huge lesson we learned in terms of like actual development.
Right.
Like we thought that with we wouldn't need backer kit.
Right.
We wouldn't be a big enough Kickstarter
Right.
for that. Oof,
No,
huge
big
mistake.
mistake.
Yeah. The next time around, we're absolutely gonna have like a whole either
Mhm.
kick tracker or backer kit.
Because you have opportunities for pre-orders and things like that.
Right.
In the board game realm, and I think there's a mix there for the pre-order system, because if you make any retailer agreements prior to, so if you have in your pledge levels a
Mhm.
retailer agreement, one of the dangers you have is that if you have a pre-order system and retailer agreement, that sort of takes away from your retailer's chance to sell it.
Yeah.
So there's like this balancing act you have to play in that as well, right?
Yep.
Because you want to sell more,
Of
but
course.
you also want to make sure you're selling more through the right channels.
Right.
But maybe those channels might drop the ball, so you're gambling on making that agreement with them. So it's like,
Even right now, we've got
Yeah.
people saying, "I want my local game store to have this. Can
Correct.
you sell it to them?" And we're
Right.
like, "Does your local game store order through Alliance?
right,
Just call them."
yeah,
Yeah.
And like we want to move our product. Like we
Yeah.
already sold our product to Alliance,
Correct.
but we need those relationships to be healthy, good relationships.
absolutely.
And we would rather have the bigger distributors see that, oh, if we buy Silverclutch products, they'll move down the road, even though we're giving up like a sale now. We're building a lot more faith from much bigger customers.
Right. I've had talks with FLGSs because I've been back in a lot of things over the last year or so. And really the value prop for them and what they should be doing if they want a piece of this action is they should be talking to you leading up to the end of the campaign, making agreements, and actually running a pre-order system out of their store so that they give you a list. I need 20 copies, verified. You know, I have 20 copies sold. I need that, plus give me another 10 on top of that. Give you a solid number.
Absolutely.
So then you're not lost in like the world of you might buy these, right?
Maybe need 2.
It's about that cooperation, and I think that they're so. It's a new world for an FLGS, and some of them, I mean, are operating in old world.
And it's hard
mechanics.
for FLGS,
Yes,
man.
Is.
Like
it is.
They're not operating on huge surplus budgets.
They're not. No.
Like it's hard for them to carry some of, like, no matter how cool these smaller Kickstarter games are.
I agree. Yep.
They need to know that's product's gonna move. That's why a lot of them are like, you know, 50% magic.
Right.
And then, you know, they've got like that nice robust.
Yeah, there's 50% magic is really solid. Yeah.
I mean, that's that breadwinner.
Yeah, there's the one, our local one is probably at least 50%.
Yeah, more like probably 80 and then like 20% Pokemon.
Yeah, mine's definitely like at least 80% magic.
Yeah.
Like that's what moves for him.
Yeah.
And I think if they learned or at least have that communication with the project teams that are on Kickstarter, then it would help improve that flow.
Absolutely.
Because then it's more solid. I have 20 people pre-ordered. I know I'm gonna need that. I know that's money in the bank for me. So let's go ahead and set up an agreement. And then you're like, okay, you know what? I'll shut off pre-orders on the back end because now I know you're getting this, right?
Yeah, of course.
And I think that's why, you know, to ask, because some of the retailers are asking for that. We don't want pre-orders on backer kit because then it ruins our chances of selling it. It's like, yeah, well, I don't know your chances of selling it if you're going to sell any here with this like really loose agreement we have right here. So
and it's a big stress for the developers too, because if you're a small developer, then that's a much dicier decision. If you're like Stonemeyer, then, you know, you don't sweat the pre-orders. You know it's moving.
You do know it's moving. It's actually probably everything you printed is already sold, and
and the next printing's already sold.
Yeah, right.
Wingspan's already on what? It's like
I think it's third printing.
Yeah, like
exactly. It's a whole different world at that level.
And that's what the dream for everybody gets to that level.
It is the dream, but I mean, the passion doesn't come from the dream. I think the passion for most people who survive in this industry comes from the desire to just design.
Absolutely, I agree with that 100%.
Because anyone who's chasing the money is going to fizzle pretty quick. You know, maybe they get the hit, but even if they get that one hit, it's a one-hit wonder. You know, the ones that truly survive in this industry let the passion lead them and not the money.
Absolutely.
But it's definitely difficult when you have to pay the bills, right? But it's about the whole thing's a balancing act. I think you guys are on the right track.
Man, I appreciate that. I very much hope you're right. We're trying. We try every day.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you want to go sort of jump into this?
Yeah, I don't know if I can wait anymore, Will.
All right.
I know if I can wait.
So let's talk about the new project.
So we're gonna switch over to the board camera here. This game is Heavy Armor. Dave and I are both sci-fi nuts.
Love my space, and I love my my Gungan. Wow.
Gundam?
Yeah, Gundam. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Not Jar Jar Binks fans.
No. Yeah, please
Gundam.
do not associate Jar Jar Binks with this game or our company.
We'll edit that out. That was terrible. I never want to associate that again. My Gundam-esque. I think the first time I saw it, it reminded me of this one on Netflix. Oh God, Knights of Sidonia. Just like the design, it kind of reminded me of it.
Oh man, pour one out for season 3 of that we're never getting.
I know. But it's again, I don't mean that like any particular way. It just reminded me of it, and I like that. So it was definitely appealing.
Beneath Nexus design was born out of like a not a game design need, more like just like a logistics need. Right. Really, like I want to be able to play role playing games with people who are not going to play a role playing game.
Correct.
This is my baby. This is the game I've always wanted to work on building.
Awesome.
Right.
I to say that I love Mecha is like a very,
Yeah.
very like understatement. I'm obsessed with Mecha. I've watched so many of the Gundam series.
Yep.
Aldnoah Zero,
Yeah,
Knights of
that's a good one.
Sidonia, Darling and the Franks, Neon Genesis.
Yep.
Classic. Yeah.
I love mechs.
Full Metal Panic.
Yeah,
I know. I had to throw
They've
that in.
got really
No.
good designs.
Yeah,
I
right.
really love their mech designs.
The show
I'll
was-
say
the
that
show was
much.
on. It was a goofy
Arbalist
thing.
is a really cool looking mech.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I do not need a high school drama in my
Keep
mech
that away.
anime.
Keep that away from
And the other thing that I've wanted to love, and
Mhm.
I've never found a game to fall in love with, is skirmish combat.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love the idea of like you just have this elite team,
Mhm.
and you have two elite teams, and you're gonna run at each other, and whoever is the best is gonna come out the winner.
Correct.
Every skirmish combat game I've played it's either too crunchy or it's got problems
Too
with
light.
or it's too light, or it's got problems with alpha strike. Like first player that gets the hit, you just win.
We were we were just
yeah.
talking about that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make a game that catered to my unhealthy obsession with mecha anime,
Mhm.
but also fulfilled my like longing for a strategy skirmish game
Yeah.
that you didn't have to worry about alpha strike. You didn't worry about I'm gonna spend the next 4 minutes looking at a couple of spreadsheets trying to do calculations and stuff.
Right, you're not rolling like 45 dice each time for saves and
Right,
stuff
yeah,
that.
like you don't have to. Yeah,
Mhm,
I'm
mhm.
trying to. I'm playing Kill Team, Warhammer Kill Team now, and it's like
Yeah.
I'm grinning through it.
Yeah, right. You're like, this is great.
No knock to Warhammer, no knock to Kill Team. I
No,
love
I know.
Warhammer, but it's a lot of number pushing.
It
and
is.
Yeah.
It is.
I don't want to worry about that.
Right.
I want to feel like everyone that I'm controlling
Yep.
is cool
Yep.
and they're doing cool stuff.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
So the overall layout and concept behind heavy armor
Mhm.
is that each of the players is a commander.
Okay.
And under your command, you have 3 heavy armors, which are represented by these standees here.
Yep.
And in addition to the 3 heavy armors, which are the main characters in your anime,
Mhm.
you've got 6 light armors.
So little guys. Yeah.
They are your cannon fodder.
Yeah, there you
You
go.
know,
Kind
they're
of-
your
kind of
zombies, your
reconnaissance,
Leos.
yeah.
You know, they're there to show you how cool the heavy armors are.
Very cool. Yeah.
So the way that the core mechanic behind it, there's 2 real big core mechanics,
Mhm.
and that's the way the dice system works,
Mhm.
and then the way the energy system in it works.
Okay.
Each of the commanders have 15 energy tokens,
Right.
and to activate
Is there
their
right
yep,
here?
right
Okay.
here
And then
over
over
there.
there.
Yep.
To activate your heavy armors, you'll assign energy to their heat sinks,
Mhm.
and to use their attacks, you assign them to their attack heat sinks.
Okay.
So,
So we're looking at heat sinks on the bottom here,
yep,
and then the attack heat sinks are placed.
right next to their
Right there.
character,
Okay,
or not their character, their ability names.
Okay, cool. And actually, so each of them have their own type of. So the Galahad has the hyperthermal blade.
Mm-hmm.
Each one has range and.
Attack, which
Okay,
is the number of
the-
dice you roll.
Okay, that's awesome.
And that the dice brings us to the next main mechanic, which
Yep.
is the way the combat system
Love
works.
it. Okay.
The only skirmish combat game that I've played that I was like, this is awesome
Mhm.
is X-Wing. I think
Oh,
X-Wing.
yeah.
I think X-Wing is a really, really good game.
Yep.
It's the first time I played a miniatures game that made me really believe that miniatures can be a really fun game for
Right.
board gamers as
Very
well
true.
as war gamers.
Yep.
And I loved how it was an opposing dice roll.
Mm-hmm.
So we designed our game to use opposing dice rolls between attackers and defenders.
Right.
Our dice have 3 results.
Mhm.
So you've got 2 sides that are blank,
Okay.
and that just counts as a miss.
Yep. Fizzle. Yep.
Yep. You have 3 sides which are hits,
Okay.
and then the last side is a double hit.
Oh.
So you can either roll 0, 1, or 2.
Yep.
And that the 2 helped give that little bit of over the top anime swinginess that we're looking for.
Yeah.
I was actually just testing, and we got some feedback. People from some people that were saying it feels really swingy. I was like, well, it's an anime, so
Yeah.
how many times does Goku die? But not really.
That's literally perfect.
Yeah.
So the way that the dice work is that the attacker will roll their dice, the defender rolls their dice.
Yep.
Subtract the defender's result from the attackers, and that's how you get damage. But there's a few ways to mess with that.
Mhm.
The first is supercharging your attacks and supercharging your defense. So you use the energy to attack, but you also use the energy to supercharge.
Right.
For every energy you put into the heat sink, you supercharge the attack by 1 more.
Okay.
So that means that you'll add that many more hits to your roll.
Oh, okay. That's
So
nice.
so if I'm a character going up, so if I'm like one of the melee characters and I'm trying to take a swing at like the big defender,
Right.
I know he's got a really big shield that's going to take a lot of power for me to tear through him.
Mm-hmm.
I could supercharge by just dumping 3 energy into my heat sink,
Okay.
and that lets me add 3 to whatever I roll.
Interesting. All
So
right.
so he knows I'm coming at him with a big hit.
Yep.
The defender gets to supercharge as well.
Okay.
So the attacker will supercharge, make their roll. The defender gets to supercharge and then make their roll.
Yep.
And the idea behind it is that there's 2 real economies that are at odds here.
Mhm.
You have the economy of your hull points on the heavy armors,
Mhm.
but you also have the economy of the energy that you have.
Okay.
You know, you could dump a lot of energy into one unit,
Mhm.
and it might result in a lot of damage to the hull.
Mhm.
But the defender might dump a lot of energy to make sure they're defended.
Right.
Even
Survive it.
though a lot of damage isn't resulted, you're attacking their energy pool, which is how active they're able to be.
Yep.
So even if you don't damage them, you've restricted how active they're able to be to attack you.
Right.
So depending on the situation you're in, you might say, all right, I can't save, like if there's a fight going on in this corner,
Mhm.
but your active armor's over here.
Yep.
It's like, I can't get over here to save him,
Mhm.
but I could pressure him and force my opponent to use a lot of his energy,
True.
so he won't be able to like do a lot on the other side of the board.
Right. Right.
The last really big element of the game is the way that we divide up the hull points on the heavy armors.
Mhm.
Each heavy armor only has half of their hull points on the front side.
Okay.
So as they take damage, they'll count down until they get to halfway.
Right.
If a heavy armor takes more than half its health and damage, the card flips over. And because this is an anime, the more damage a heavy armor takes, the more powerful that heavy armor
Yeah, that's right.
becomes.
Yeah.
Flipping over the heavy
This isn't
armor,
even my true form.
very much so. The flipping over the heavy armor card does a couple of things.
Uh-huh.
The first thing is that all the energy that's already on that card,
Yeah.
that gets refunded to you.
Okay.
So,
okay.
so being knocked down to half health means you're going to get a bunch of energy back. So you
Okay.
get a little boost. And it also, on the flip side of your character card, is the EX super transform limit
Mhm.
break mode.
Mm-hmm.
All the characters' attacks get upgraded.
Yeah.
And it unlocks their third super ability.
The vice grip on this one right
The
here.
Ragnarok over here.
Uh-huh. And the idea behind their ultimate abilities is
Mhm.
they are just wildly broken.
I can see that, yeah.
We went into the game with the intention of, if you get off an ultimate,
Mhm.
you're gonna absolutely wreck your opponent.
Yeah.
But all of the heavy armors have an ultimate.
Mhm.
And the next element that we added to help ensure that you don't get runaway victories
Mhm.
is that when your card flips,
Yeah.
any extra damage is just overkill. When your card flips, you always start at the top of your health bar.
Okay.
So if you're really strategic and you're able to like eke out like your armor surviving at the last slot on
Mhm.
its front side,
Mhm.
you feel free to go ham with him into your opponent
He's
because
only going to take one more.
he's only going to take 1 more damage.
Yeah. Okay. I like that element to it.
Yeah, like a lot of what we were trying to do is have really over the top, really powerful attacks, lots of aggression,
Mhm.
but then lots of counterplay that not eliminates the aggression, but turns it on its head.
It's like a mitigation type thing.
Right. We wanted the game to feel very back and forth.
Right. So how do we win?
So right now we're at the point where what I think we have is a really great system.
Yes.
If
Nice skeleton.
this was just going to be just a deathmatch game,
Mhm.
I'd be like, it is a great deathmatch game.
Mhm.
We could ship it as is.
Yeah.
I don't think a deathmatch game
Please
is
tell me you're talking scenarios
So
here.
we've been back and forth on that for a
Yeah.
couple of months now.
Yeah.
I think scenarios are something that is definitely in the future.
Mhm.
We've
Like
tried
an
some
add-on down the road, maybe.
not an add-on. Like we want scenarios to be part of the game that we release, but
Mhm.
the problem that we're having with scenarios is we need the focus of the game to be the combat.
Right.
So the scenario can't detract from that.
Right.
Right.
So we have-
like control this area.
Right, like
Yeah.
we tried area control.
Yeah.
Everybody hates area control.
Yeah,
right.
It's like we have got giant robots hurtling through space at hundreds of miles an hour with giant boosters. I don't want him sitting in one spot.
Very
Yeah,
true. Yeah.
just like playing defense.
So the concept that we were talking about today was a notion of as you damage your opponent's team,
Mhm.
you start racking up a points meter.
Mhm.
The points aren't how you win.
Okay.
You're trying to get to a points threshold,
Okay.
and once you get to the points threshold, that then unlocks your objective.
Okay.
So you want to be the best combatant on the field, and
Mhm.
then once you best your opponent in just open combat,
Mhm.
then you have then the basket pops out. You have the
Huh.
chance to go in and like score that win.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, we just came up with it this weekend.
Yeah.
We have a lot of work to figure out
Right.
how we're going to design that.
Yeah.
But we've been given a good couple of ideas from the feedback this weekend. So I
Cool.
think in a couple of weeks we might have something worth
That's
testing.
good. And in terms of play, like, do you guys have this on Tabletop Sim or Tabletopia or anything like that?
Not yet. I don't
Okay.
want to. So we released Beneath Nexus on
Mhm.
Tabletop Simulator, and we released it a little early.
Okay.
We like went through all the work of building the file for
Mhm.
Tabletop Sim,
Mhm.
and we ended up making a couple of really minor changes after the fact
Yeah.
that really improved quality of
Mhm.
life and like rebalanced stuff.
Right.
And trying to go back and then update all of that ended up.
It's a bit of a hassle.
It was a hassle.
We use it as our primary testing. So
Right.
we actually don't deal with paper. We're at Smunchy Games. We don't deal with any paper at all
Right.
until we know that we have it worked out. So we actually use TTS as our
As your
main-
play testing.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And so like any changes we make, we're able to just upload very quickly. We're not wasting paper.
Mm.
All of our in-house testing we can just do very quickly. And then as we move to the public testing stage, it's there and available for everybody. We don't have to cart it around with us, right?
I would love to hear your pipeline for doing updates to that.
It's not that difficult to be
Okay.
honest.
Well, the way I found how to do it was a huge nightmare. So
Yeah.
please tell me what I was
I
doing
mean,
wrong.
part of it is InDesign as
Right.
your base for cards. As long as you have your STL files, or at least if you're using the cardboard standees, you're not going to change those that much.
No.
Really, your card elements, the only things that change often. And there is a pretty decent pipeline for just. Actually, it's honestly really simple. But
All right. Well.
No, we won't
Yeah.
give away your trade
Yeah.
secrets. We'll
Yeah.
save that for after.
Yeah. please.
But yeah, so that's the reason I asked, because it does open up your pool for playtesting, just because
You can just put it on the internet and
right.
just let people have at it.
I'm sure you have a Discord server or something like it.
We haven't set up the Discord. We have one for our company, like a
Mhm.
Silverclutch
Right,
Discord server. We
Mhm.
made one specifically for Beneath Nexus.
Right.
This one, I'm a little too precious with it. I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't want to let it out
Yeah.
quite yet.
Well,
make sure
exactly,
it's
but that's
ready.
what I'm saying. So you do your in-house stuff on the TTS, and then when you want to do like a public release or public preview,
Mhm.
and then you can. We usually couple the public preview with a Google form.
Oh, that's a
for
good
people-
idea.
For people to like a playtest form, and then they, not everybody fills it out, but
Yeah.
some will just pop in and say, "This is what I think." This is, and a lot of times we're actually just leading a playtest and saying, at the end of it, what are your frustrations? Where can we improve?
Right,
If you had a
right,
magic wand, if there's one thing you could do in this game, and you had a magic wand, what would it be? That kind of stuff.
That's an awesome playtesting pipeline.
Yeah. So
That's mine now. I'm just doing that.
that's okay. That's okay. We're here to share, right?
Yeah, right.
That's part of Unpub. But yeah, that's kind of that's why I asked, because often we use our series of Discords, like through Geek Spiel, through Smunchy Games, through Happy Fun Time Live, and our existing communities to try to send like trickle down changes and say, okay, let's go ahead and play and see what you guys think. So.
Right. Yeah. That would help us out a lot.
It does, and it helps. Like it could be a Thursday night,
Right.
and you could be like, that 3 of your guys you're showing green on Discord. And you're like, hey, what are you doing? You want to pop into a playtest real quick? And most of them, if they're fans of what you've already made, they're in. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. That's super awesome. Yeah, it gives us a new
In
project.
the center, is this kind of like for future stuff?
So
or-
this is a relic right here of an old version.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
I'd be very embarrassed to tell you which version this is right now.
So we've heard the gamut. We had Dom on from North Star Games.
Yes.
Talking about thousands of
Oh,
iterations
alright.
and stuff like that.
We haven't hit thousands yet.
Yeah,
we haven't quite hit
so
that
I'm with
part.
you. I'm with you on that. But he was very open with how many iterations they've gone through over like a year, 2 years. So
To give you just a hint at where this was at. This game started as freestanding miniatures on an open table with rulers
Mhm.
and like
Shit
stat
like that.
sheets.
Okay, that style. I
So,
gotcha.
like I said, with Beneath Nexus, we only had one element survive.
Right.
I don't even know if one element's going to survive in version 1 through the final
Of
release
course,
here.
and that happens, and
Yeah.
but
It's how you know you're working.
exactly, and it's how you know you're actually working as a designer, proper designer, because if you just stuck with the same design throughout, there's probably some cracks and pieces that
Yeah.
that you're letting.
It's the
For me.
biggest piece of advice whenever I talk
Yeah.
to like younger designers or
Yep.
students or anything. Just don't. If it's a great idea, that's awesome.
Mhm.
A great idea doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a great game. It doesn't
Yep.
mean that it's going to be. That doesn't mean it's for the game you're working on.
Right.
You know, put it in the pocket. You can come back to the idea. You can find a home for it later.
Mhm. Mhm.
Work on making the game great. Don't
Yep.
work on building the game around the idea.
I agree. So this still in development.
Mhm.
Obviously, you still have the Kickstarter work out. So I'm not going to ask you to give me an estimate of Kickstarter because it sounds like you're still heavy in development at this point.
I will say we were thinking about this summer.
Right. Okay.
We decided that unless something really big breaks through, we're probably going to push it through to next year.
Right.
I got
Which
it.
is smart, and
Yeah,
it's okay to
absolutely.
sort of give a primer out there, like summer hopefully, but
Yeah.
we want to make sure that we're ready.
Summer,
So,
hopefully,
Yeah.
but most likely it's going to be next spring.
Okay.
That's when I think we're really going to be ready to make this the game that I think it deserves to be.
Absolutely. With Beneath Nexus, where can people find it right now?
So you can get Beneath Nexus on a whole bunch of different places.
Okay, okay.
You can get it on
awesome.
tabletopdirect.com.
Okay.
It's available on Amazon.com.
Okay.
If you'd like to be particularly supportive of us, you can go to silverclutchgames.com and order it through our web store
All
there.
right.
We
right.
recommend.
I think on our web store we have it at the end of product pricing right now.
Okay.
Forget what we set that pricing to, but it's a
Yeah.
good deal less than our initial release cost.
Okay.
And you know, first and foremost, if you can find it at your FLGS, go to your
Support
FLGS and
Yeah,
get it
yeah.
there.
absolutely.
Yeah. Because and really what it comes down to is it's going to keep them in the pipeline. So
Absolutely.
if you go to FLGS and you're like, hey, listen, I really want that Silverclutch game, then they're going to want to buy the next one, right?
Right, exactly.
So excellent. Any other plugs? Anything else you want to talk about before we sort of move on? Next convention, PAX
Next.
East.
So we're not going to be at PAX East this
Okay.
year. We were thinking about doing it. It ended up just being too much too soon.
Yeah.
We weren't going to have anything. We would end up testing the same stuff that we knew was outdated,
Gotcha.
Right.
and it didn't make sense for
Gotcha.
us to get there.
Yep.
We're probably going to hunker down and try and power through all the way through Unplugged.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
We
Smart. That,
Yeah.
I'm so my 3 a year now. Technically 4 because I have one local, but I semi count that one.
Yeah.
It is this.
Mhm.
Then I'm folding in Origins this year. I'm going to Origins
Mhm.
and then Unplugged.
Right.
And those are like the main ones I like to hit.
We may play around with the idea of going to first exposure at Gen Con.
Yep.
I've been to one Gen Con. I don't know if my soul is ready to wade through that storm again.
Yeah.
But I would
Yeah.
I would like to get because Gen Con is some of the best play testing we got
Very
through first exposure. Those
Yeah.
guys, yeah, they just brought the best testers to us. So
Yeah.
yeah. I guarantee you will be at PAX Unplugged.
Okay.
I guarantee you that will be at MagFest next year. We always do MagFests.
I just heard about that for the first time, and it sounds awesome.
MagFest is, oh man, I am.
Yeah,
I
I heard
It-
wild things about Mac.
So it's not a game convention.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
it's a 4-day,
24
24-hour
yeah, saw that.
gaming music convention.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like just a high octane
Yep.
dance party the whole weekend. And the best part about being in tabletop there is that it's a 24-hour convention. You've
Yeah,
got a
so
lot
there's
of
tons open.
tons of time for people to come. And at 4 a.m, open play is packed. It's packed to the gills at all hours. It is an absolute blast.
That's awesome.
Awesome. I think that's one where I might have to look into a little bit more.
Oh, it's
Because like honestly,
That might be
like,
too
when
old.
Go
that might
as a
be too
guest.
old, Dave, for
I don't know if
Magfest.
you're too old for that, Will.
We'll
I think
see.
we can bring you to
he's-
that one.
if you know Chris O'Neill tears MagFest up. He's not letting it stop him. So.
There you go. There you go. So, like we
Excellent.
got awesome.
Yeah. So
That's two now for that. That's awesome.
That's right.
Yeah.
I really want to thank you for being a part of what we do.
Thank
here.
you very much for having me on.
Before you actually part ways with this, do you want to share your experience of Unpub and what it's done for you?
Oh, Unpub's been it's been a very, very, very good experience. This is actually our first Unpub we've gone to.
Gotcha.
At least
Okay.
the first Unpub convention.
Big
proper.
Correct.
Unpub,
Not like
right,
yeah.
you've done some minis.
Yeah, we've done a bunch of minis in the past. We are terrible about our event registration. Every time someone asks, "Oh, are you going to Unpub?" I'm like, "No, let me sign up." They're like, "Dude, it's been sold out for a long time."
Months ago.
Unpub is awesome because people come to the table already knowing that they're going to be tested. They already
That's correct.
know that you're looking for feedback. They have the
Yeah.
right mindset.
Yeah.
Most other conventions that we go to, in public play testing is a big part of our process.
Right.
Every time we have a booth, we have a section dedicated to the new product that we only want testing feedback on.
Right.
But a lot of people at most conventions are looking to buy stuff.
Yeah,
they're
they're
looking
very
keeping
true.
us
to
out and ready.
yeah, they're not coming to the table with the
Yeah.
idea that
And
they're
you-
going to have
and
to
you don't-
give
yeah.
you feedback.
And you don't have that here. That is a nice thing.
Yeah, people are they come with that the right mindset. They come with the right experience of play testing.
Yeah.
They're able to like kind of pierce through their first impressions and say, "I know like this feels swingy, but I
Right.
know that the real problem is like this element."
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So getting that just high quality, solid feedback has been absolutely worthwhile.
Awesome. Excellent. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much,
very much,
guys.
Tom.
Best
Thank
of
you,
luck.
appreciate
I
it.
can't wait to see
Thank
new
you.
iterations of this, and we will talk.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll be right back
Thank you,
with
guys.
Winsmith Games.